أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين نصلي عليه في الأولين وفي الآخرين وفي الملأ الأعلى يا رب العالمين أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله عز وجل كما جاء في محكم التنزيل يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. Dear brothers and sisters, we begin with praise and gratitude. This is the lifestyle of anyone who recognizes where we came from, what we are doing, and where we are going. So we live a life of gratitude, and the best way to embrace that lifestyle is to know the divine truth of guidance. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. And so the Quran is answering in the next chapter, after we pray this prayer, guide us to the straight path. Then he says, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. This is the book, there's no doubt about it. It's guidance for those who would seek to protect their soul and to be in piety and God consciousness so that they may meet their Maker when they leave this earth with His contentment. So today I wanted to look into the Holy Quran. We are still in the Women's History Month. So I thought if we look at two figures in the khutbah today, and we'll continue because we need to watch the time on our khutbah. We'll continue tonight before Isha at 8 o'clock. We will continue many other examples in that the Holy Quran tells us guidance, shows us guidance, and tells us in the stories of some women, some amazing examples of spirituality and leadership. And so, obviously the place to start is Maryam, alayha salam, the mother of Jesus, peace and blessings be upon both of them. And the story of Maryam does not start with Maryam. And that's something that is beautiful that the Holy Quran has preserved for us, because I can remember growing up and I have looked back into the biblical scripture, there is really nothing about it. There is no story about the mother of Mary and the beautiful lessons that we learn from her. So it starts out whenever he says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ اصْطَفَى آدَمَ وَنُوحًا وَآلَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَآلَ عِمْرَانَ عَلَى الْعَالَمِينَ ذُرِّيَّةً بَعْضُهَا مِنْ بَعْضٍ وَاللَّهُ سَمِيعٌ عَلِيمٌ. So he begins this whole point about this beautiful story of Imran's wife and their child Maryam by saying, indeed Allah has chosen some of the great prophets from history. And so that starts with Adam, and then when people had lost their way after Adam, then Noah came and was sent for a long time trying to remind people of the oneness of God and to not take idols and worship them beside Him. And so then he says, Ala Ibrahim, and then Abraham and his family and the beautiful story that we have there, and then the family of Imran, and this is referring to the grandfather of, or the mother and father of Mary, and it would be technically the grandfather of Jesus, peace be upon him. So when we look at this story, after mentioning all these great prophets and all of those great things, then he says, إِذْ قَالَتِ امْرَأَةُ عِمْرَانَ. At this moment, he's going to describe istifa. He's describing choosing, the reality of choosing a person to carry the message. So he mentioned before it Adam, Noah, Abraham and his family, and then Imran. And then he chooses to specify out of all of these people, who should we talk about in how this choosing took place. You see a lot of people, when we talk about guidance and we talk about choosing, sometimes it gets superficial. What do I mean? Some people get this idea that Allah is playing puppeteering, and that cancels out the human reality that we will see is so important, and that is our choice and our role in it. So His choosing us is putting us in the situation or the circumstance in which we can thrive and flourish spiritually. That's His choosing us. But He does not make anyone pious and righteous and then send them to heaven all by His action, because then what about all of us who were responsible for our own will, and then we made the wrong decision, and so He chose somebody and put them into heaven or put them into hell based upon His own, and they had nothing to do with that? This is not the creed of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. The truth is that it is part His setting up the circumstances and facilitating the reality for someone, and then how they react to that. So, إِذْ قَالَتِ امْرَأَةُ عِمْرَانَ رَبِّ إِنِّي نَذَرْتُ لَكَ مَا فِي بَطْنِي مُحَرَّرًا. A beautiful statement. So, she got pregnant, the wife of Imran. And as she's thinking about the future of this child in her stomach, she says, "Oh my Lord," and the word Rabb. She can say, "Oh God," she can say, "Oh merciful," she can say, He has all kinds of asma' husna, beautiful descriptions and qualities to know Him and call Him by, as the Quran tells us. But she said Rabb, because Rabb is the word that is reflecting on raising and giving value and facilitating and supporting tarbiyah, as we call it. The holistic education and social support system. You know? And so she says, "Oh my Lord, I am hereby vowing, consecrating what is in my womb to you for your sake, to be your servant." And then she says, "Muharrara." The word muharrar, it means technically to free one from slavery. You know, tahrir, liberation, emancipation. But the word in its essence is removing someone from some human influence and restriction to make it well so it can properly seek its destiny and live for its best interest when it comes to a human being. And so what she's saying is she lives in a society that the Jewish community has lost their way. They are given to many corruptions. They have an elitist system. Rabbis, many of them are corrupt. They have become taken by the Greek influence of the great Greek civilization that has technical rule over them. And so she's saying, you know what? I want this child to be free from all of the influences and corruptions of humanity, and I want my child to be a servant of God. But also included in this, it was a rare occurrence, but some people in the Jewish community, when they had the temple, which there was the temple back then, they called it Herod's temple, the second temple. And so what they would do is they would say something like this, and they would intend by that, I'm giving my child to the temple. So my child will not be raised in my authority, in my leadership. Rather, the child will be a servant of the temple, and basically that child will serve all of the people and help the rabbis fulfill all of the things in the temple. So she's saying, I'm also giving up my child for your sake and putting my child fully in your service. And I'm giving up this baby that will grow in my stomach. This baby that I will feel a deep attachment to. And I will have a bond in that it will come out of me and all that it will take to bring this child in existence. She's saying, I am going to give that. فَتَقَبَّلْ مِنِّي إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. So accept this offering that I give you, my child, oh my Lord. I know you hear all prayers and you know everything and you have the ability to make your knowledge reality. So she's giving up her child for the service of God. It's the story of Abraham again. When he was told in his dream, he has this vision, I should sacrifice my own child for the will of the Creator who has asked me to do this, and I couldn't imagine how or why he would do this, but because he is my Lord and I am obedient, I will do that. She is mirroring this same reality. So فَلَمَّا وَضَعَتْهَا, so then when she gave birth to this child, رَبِّ إِنِّي وَضَعْتُهَا أُنثَى, oh my Lord, I have given birth to a girl. You see, the patriarchal, misogynistic society, even amongst God's elect, amongst the tribes of the earth, are given to treating women like they have no spiritual value and like they're just supposed to cook and make babies at home and that their place is not in the religion. So she's deeply concerned that her prayer was not answered because of course she assumes that if she is consecrating and vowing her child to the service of the temple and to be a pious, righteous servant of God, it must be a boy. Of course it should be a boy. Now the next verse, there's a difference of opinion amongst who is talking here. وَاللَّهُ أَعْلَمُ بِمَا وَضَعَتْ وَلَيْسَ الذَّكَرُ كَالْأُنثَى. So the majority of the scholars are saying that this is God now telling us that He knew good and well that He has answered her prayer. He knew good and well that He was creating this a girl, and He is showing people that their idea about piety and righteousness and leadership in religion is not peculiar, although the generality of leadership is for men, but it is not specifically peculiar to men. Women can be pious, righteous leaders, and He's saying that this great mission that I am putting for your child in an answer to your prayer is that she will be a woman, and that I don't think a man is meant for this responsibility. So the scholars talked about this, and that this is something that we must, وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتُ بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ يَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنكَرِ. And the ayah goes, the believing men and women, they are guardian supporters of each other. They are enjoining and promoting amongst each other on equal plane what is right and forbidding what is wrong, and living in obedience to God and establishing the prayers and so forth. The Quran made this point very clear, min dhakarin wa untha. Why? Because this patriarchal system is not, that's worldwide. The problem we're seeing now, in which Muslims are forgetting these teachings, and now we are marginalizing half of the ummah and wondering what happened to the kids we are raising, is because we are not following the Holy Quran. And so it's important for us always to go back and ponder over what is being said and why is this so important. This was paramount, and it is preserved for all times for people to know that men and women are equals in all that matters. They have different roles and created responsibilities and capacities and potentials as physical beings. But as spiritual beings, one could be better than the other, and there is no gender basis for preference. So now the issue is وَلَيْسَ الذَّكَرُ كَالْأُنثَى. Some scholars saying, now God is saying, and I know that man is not the same as woman. But see, the point is that this is emphasizing it again. Regardless who is the one talking here, but he's saying, yes, I am answering your prayer, and it is a girl, and the girl is not the same as the boy, but for sure, as you see what's happening here, the girl is not inferior to the boy in matters of religion. That is something people have invented. So, now she says, وَإِنِّي سَمَّيْتُهَا مَرْيَمَ وَإِنِّي أُعِيذُهَا بِكَ وَذُرِّيَّتَهَا مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ. And I am calling her Mary. And, by the way, who's calling her Mary? She is. But you all heard that somewhere, it was invented, that the man has the solemn right to name the child. This is not correct, according to this ayah. Because these are people following prophets. Zachariah is running around here. Okay? and these are people who are understanding the message. She said, I have named her Maryam. So all the answers are right there in the Quran. We don't need any Western modern movement to fix us. We just need to go back to the religion as it originally is, and always will be. It is the solution to all of our problems. So then, and indeed I am seeking refuge for this girl with you and for her progeny from the cursed devil and all of his plots. Look how the attention she's giving. She's pregnant, her top priority. This child is supposed to be a servant of God. I have shortcomings, society has shortcomings. Ya Allah, protect this child from all that's evil in the world. All of us, everything around us. رَبَّنَا هَبَ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ. Oh our Lord, give us the big blessing and gift in our spouses and in our children that would be the delight of our eyes. What would make us feel like we've achieved greatness and beauty in our family. وَجَعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. And that is obviously the best way. Make us leaders amongst the pious. So, she now has said this, and we should say this when our children are born, just like when we are moving to potentially make a child by the will of Allah. Allahumma jannib ash-shaytan, jannibni ash-shaytan wa jannib ash-shaytana ma razaqtana. The Prophet ﷺ, anytime he was with his wife, oh God, protect me from the devil and protect what may come from our gathering here from the devil. But just now, think to yourself, when's the last time we were following this sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ? And somebody said, yeah, but we're planning our family. Guess what? There is for every single planning system exceptions. It always happens. Don't be that one that the exception came to you and you have not prayed this beautiful prayer rooted in the Prophethood. So now let's think about where we stand with our children. Because right now we live in a society that is filled with secular, atheistic concepts. Spirituality is not cool. I mean, I've been dealing with young Muslims now for 20 years in many communities. There is a big problem in our community with the spirituality of young people. It's a big problem. Are we making that the ultimate priority? Ask yourself, what is the most important thing to me when my child comes home from school? Is it, did you pray Dhuhr Salah when the time is, now the time jumped ahead, they can pray when they come up, but for the last 5 months, Dhuhr Salah would end while they're in school. Is that the most important thing to you? Because guess what I found out? My son goes to Queen City STEMS. There are some 30, 40 Muslims there, and he said only 2 people pray Dhuhr with him every day. And he went to the other dozens of them, and they're like, yeah, inshallah. And I'm thinking, do the parents know or do they care? This is some serious stuff we're learning from the reality of istifa. You were chosen in that God made you born into a Muslim environment, knowing the Quran, knowing the beloved final prophet and messenger sent to mankind with full clarity and access to the complete light of divine guidance. But is it that your most important concern is the grades they make and what degree, and what will be their title and their name and things like this? Because that's the secular model, the non-religious model. Your value is in your intellect, which is why right now so many Muslims are throwing around rest in peace for a man who said very clearly over the last 5 years in many circumstances that I do not believe there is a divine truth or a God that created everything. He said, I do not believe that there is any creation Physics tells me, according to his knowledge, that things just pop up out of nowhere. And then Muslims are spreading all over social media, rest in peace. We're not saying that we're going to judge him to the hellfire. He himself has said, I don't believe when anyone dies that they exist anymore. So they are not, he is no longer Stephen Hawking, because that thing does not exist. It ceases to exist according to him. There is no resting and there is no peace, because those are part of existence. But yet people do not get what they are doing, because the man did some amazing work in the field of physics. That's great, that's good, noble, we can learn from it. But in religion, he set himself where he said he was. We should respect him as he is and not get caught up into this thing where we're confused about spirituality. So it's important when we look at the concern of the wife of Imran, the mother of Mary, about the spirituality and the piety of her child, that is our ultimate, most important goal and concern, and that if the kids did, like for example, I have suggested we have after-school programs or ed study programs during the week. Every parent tells me in the Muslim community, Wallah, we have school. We have all kinds of things going on in school and projects and these things. We have to worry about this stuff. Guess what? Go to any evangelical church and their kids and their parents pack the brim of their church every Wednesday by their faith, in their understanding of God and religion. Because they believe that's important, to not just come on Sunday, but to have another day to keep that scripture alive when they do the Bible study as a community. There's a kids program, a teens program, and an adult program in every serious church in the country. And we couldn't get 20 Muslims to come out here on a Wednesday. I'm telling you, jump out of the hamster wheel and make death and preparing therefore for you and your children, وَجَعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا, your ultimate priority. Why? Because the basis of the best of prophethood tells us to do that. So, فَتَقَبَّلَهَا رَبُّهَا بِقَبُولٍ حَسَنٍ وَأَنْبَتَهَا نَبَاتًا حَسَنًا وَكَفَّلَهَا زَكَرِيَّا. Her Lord answered her prayer and accepted her vow. أَنْبَتَهَا نَبَاتًا حَسَنًا. He raised her up to be in the situation where she could be the most pious she could be. So Zakaria, her aunt's husband, he's taking care of her, and he is making sure. So he made a big deal that she needs a place in the mosque because her mom has made this vow, and that was strange, to have a girl in the mosque, and the temple, whatever, mosque, temple, all the same historically. And so she's growing up in there, and the way she understands spirituality, he comes in there and says, well, what is this? She says, this is the blessing, these fruits are the blessing of my Lord. He's all like, wow, anna laki hada. That's amazing. She's like, oh, this is the blessing of my Lord. And he just makes it there for me. It's normal for her. Miraculous reality, very normal for her. She's deeply spiritual. So he sees this. يَرْزُقُ مَن يَشَاءُ بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ. She tells him, the Prophet, the uncle, God can give to whomever He wills with no hisab. Just like that. And he and his wife have not had a child ever. At this moment. Some people are like, why does it move from this to this? So then he thinks, wow, if he can bring her fruit, then he can give me a child. هُنَالِكَ دَعَا زَكَرِيَّا رَبَّهُ. The next ayah is because he just realized that I am not even praying for a child because I assume that it's over, and so I need to be serious in my knowledge of the divine and take a lesson from this girl. And so he prays, and then he's blessed with a child. So then, when God chose Maryam, يا مريم اقنتي لربك واسجدي واركعي مع الراكعين. So it says فاتخذت حجابا فأرسلنا إليها روحنا فتمثل لها بشرا سويا. We sent the angel Gabriel to her, And the angel Gabriel comes to her as a person. She doesn't know him, she's never seen him. He walks up to her while she's in this room secluded, and it's just him. قالت إني أعوذ بالرحمن منك إن كنت تقيا. She said, I seek refuge with the most merciful if you are mindful of him. So, her chastity, her piety, she's like, some strange man has walked in, we're here alone. And she seeks refuge with Ar-Rahman. So when she says that, it gives the feeling like, if you came in here with a sinful thing, don't do it. Be merciful with me, and know that he'll forgive you for whatever you intended as long as you leave here mindful of him. And so she had that sense of deep spiritual reality when some strange, she didn't say, oh, hey, how you doing? Some strange guy walks in. This is not something that she would accept. And so it's important to see the example in the great prophets and the great teachers that we have in our history through the Holy Quran, because we learn many lessons. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه فإنه هو الغفور الرحيم. In conclusion, after it became known to her, when he said, I was sent, and you will be given a blessed boy, child, and she said, well, you know, I've never been with any man, and I haven't touched anyone, so this is strange. But this is the will of your Lord. But then he tells her, Ya Maryam uqnuti li rabbiki wasjudi warka'i ma'a raki'in. Again, she's being chosen for a big responsibility. This is the reality of the messianic prophecy coming through. If you look, circumstances were chosen and set, facilitated for these people. But they are making the decisions themselves to do what's right, to make sure that they fulfill their goal in service to the Lord of the universe. So they said to her, it's not enough that we are choosing you and now you will be pregnant with this chosen, amazing, messianic child. You have to become deeper in your spirituality. You have to become obedient to your Lord. And you should prostrate and bow with those who bow. Meaning what? You should pray in the congregational prayer. Yes, in the Quran, Allah is telling the mother of a prophet to pray the congregational prayer. And I'm sure when Aisha radiallahu anha and Salama, the hadith that they narrate about how they used to go to Fajr and Isha and the Salah. I'm sure as they know Surah Al-Imran, that it makes sense to them that this is a beautiful practice. You know, some people can't wait to find one hadith to make everything haram. And then they put all kinds of other teachings aside because of some sort of preconceived notion. Fiqh should be taken as a whole, not a gotcha hadith or ayah. And religion should never be used to suppress spirituality of anyone. So it was the sunnah of the mothers of the believers to regularly attend Fajr and Isha in the Jama'ah, as was our mother and the mother of Jesus, Mary, alayhi salam. Because the mosque is a place for spiritual growth and development, and it should be for everyone who is seeking it. And so it should never be that a woman feels like, I should not go to the mosque. To the extent that when Aisha radiallahu anha got concerned because some woman was dressed in a certain way, she said, I think that if the Prophet was alive today, he would have prevented her from coming. Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu respectfully corrected the mother of the believers and said, no, you cannot say that because the Prophet ﷺ said that you should never prevent لا تمنعوا إماء الله من المساجد. Do not prevent women servants of God. He didn't say with this stipulation as long as they dress like such and such. تركتكم على المحجة البيضاء ليلها كنهارها لا يزيغ عنها إلا هالك. He left us, and his mosque had men and women praying in the same hall, and there was no partitions and barriers and all of that. And that is, he never, because he said there will come a time, يَأْتِيكُمْ كَاسِيَاتْ عَرِيَاتْ. He said, عَنَّمَا يَأْتُونَ هَكَذَا تَمْنَعُهُ مِنَ الْمَسْجِدِ. He didn't say anything of the sort. He knew, in fact, by his own words, and predicted that there will be women who dress in skimpy ways and things like that. And he did not mention anything about, oh, if they do that. And Aisha radiallahu anha, as the greatest scholar, we talked about her, she still is a human being with opinion. She's not receiving revelations. She's making an ijtihad based upon what popped in her head as a human being with great scholarly knowledge amongst her companions. So we see in the Quran here that the mosque should be a place for everybody to grow spiritually and to come together in their spirituality. And that is how we will build our mosque that we are finishing. Inshallah, in the next month or so, we will be moving over there. We expect to see sisters. We've made it very facilitated. On the left side, there's a whole place for women, shoe racks and all of that, specific for them. Bathrooms, wudu is specific for them. They'll come in there, and on the right side, they are there, and they can pray here, and they can pray here, and everybody's following the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. This is how we want to do it. So ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Allah, revive in this ummah the beautiful example of the Prophets. Ya Allah, help us to be among those who follow the Prophets to the best of our ability. Ya Allah, help us to reform ourselves according to the light of your revelation. Ya Allah, remove from us cultural tendencies that have brought stagnance and decadence to your ummah. Ya Allah, help us to be the people of spirituality and piety, and that we become leaders amongst the righteous. Ya Allah, help us to be concerned about our children and make sure that our wives and our children and our sisters and our mothers are all in the mosque, growing spiritually, building the bonds of faith with their fellow believers, and promoting what is right and learning what is wrong and avoiding all of those things that are wrong and harmful to us in this life and the hereafter. Ya Allah, we ask your guidance, we ask your forgiveness for all of our shortcomings and our weakness and our laziness and our spirituality and our lifestyle. Make us people with a strong high-mindedness, with a desire to serve you and to do what's right and to fulfill the legacy of your Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that we claim in our daily declaration of faith. Wa aqim as-salat.